Hey guys, middle of the res road back again. This time we're doing things I would say weird. Me and Alyssa are going to be sharing a mic. We have a guest host, Joel from our previous episode, wanted to come back and begged us almost.
Oh,
But we have also returning Nick and Nyree from our Five Skies episode that we did. Um, they have an upcoming training, and we wanted to see what they've been up to since we've done an episode on them. So, thank you guys for coming down and letting us
Yeah, thanks
interview
for
you
having
again.
us.
Yeah, we're glad to be back.
So, Joel, you had a question on how they got.
yeah. I was always interested to see how Nick and Nyree actually came about starting the program of Five Skies.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll begin the answer on that because the program itself, I got started after working with Taro, and our goal with Taro is basically to get tribal members, employed, and that's what Taros still do. But one of the aspects of that, I don't want to say department, I guess, but that whole area was that we could only really get placements for people that were qualified for positions. Nothing wrong with that, but we didn't have the ability to train people. So if you didn't come in with the qualifications and a contractor wasn't willing to bring you on and train you, we didn't have any ability to really do a lot. And training is expensive. So that kind of became a difficulty because Taros don't really have huge budgets, we'll say. So the second part of that was when I was able to get people placed, they worked out well. Contractor was like, hey, this is a great guy you sent. I'd like to keep him on. Absolutely, that's my goal, keep them guys working. And then they'd offer a position and either they wouldn't accept it or they'd take it, but they'd only be there for a little while and then they'd come back. So I start, hey, how come you didn't want to take that job, or how come you're back already? And started learning that some of the barriers that are existing out there for us were really what was holding us back. And there's nothing that was out there that was really designed to address that. So leaving Taro, I kind of tried to put something together that would help address that. And it started more of like core skills and things of that nature. But I knew that we were missing a component, and that component was going to be some of the teachings of the medicine wheel and the Mending Broken Hearts that the White Bison program that my wife Nyree was involved with at that time. So I spent probably 2 years trying to coax her to come over and join the dark side, I guess, and come do that portion. But she didn't really understand why, construction needed that. And then I finally was able to convince her to come try and do a class with me. And kind of at that point, that's when everything kind of took off. I don't know if you want to talk about that first experience, though, and what made you open your eyes.
So I worked with Ho-Chunk Nation for about 25 years and going through different positions and helping, young people. And before I left the nation, I worked with people that were incarcerated or had, issues and at-risk youth. And I was able to take the Mending Broken Hearts training. And for myself, to go through that work for yourself, to understand what now you're asking of your participants, you really had to kind of put yourself in that mindset of, okay, how am I going to help that person if I'm not going to share my deepest, darkest thing with them? You have to lead by example. And so when he asked me to do that at the first class, I was like, well, I already did this in the jails. I was doing these classes, so I kind of had some experience, but not to the extent of having, there was a variety of people. There was more non-natives that came to my class, which I still saw benefit from that. But then I thought, well, what happens if I could do that for our people in the healing process that I could do for them? And so when he asked me to do that, I did the class. And, after that first class, it was just it was mind blowing to see that change in people and that healing process that helped them in the beginning to understand like why they did the things that they did, why the choices they made. They kind of like reflect on a lot of their past life, and then they think about that in the future. You know, some of them may have children, so then now they look at themselves of, how am I going to be a parent then? Because this is how my parents were, and I have to reconcile all of that because how I was feeling towards my parents. You know, because some people are angry at their parents for divorce or whatever else is going on in their lives. So a lot of that is internal, and then healing, and then growth happens. So that's what I see in the class, and it was just so mind-blowing. I'm like, I looked at Nick, and I'm like, whoa. I said, now I know why you asked me to do this. So basically that's it. That's the story.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the goal is to try to provide some tools and help so that way tribal members could actually kind of reach their potential. And I knew that there wasn't anything out there, you know, existing that was going to do that. You know, and I joke with, a lot of people I used to work with tarot, and, you know, a lot of people I run into. I do more tarot work now that I'm not part of tarot than when I was.
See, I always hear, like, horror stories with tarot. Like, all they do is, like, teach you how to be a flagger, and, like, that's it. Is that true, or?
To some extent it is, because especially here in Minnesota, there's not really an extensive curriculum that needs to be taught to become a flagger, to be trained as a flagger. So that a tarot really that's something they could actually offer. Mm-hmm. In Wisconsin, there's 8 hours of hands-on that are required in addition to another 8 hours of classroom, I believe. So it's very intensive, and it has to be done in a live work site. So most tarots don't have an active construction area going on to be able to show that. So, you know, here in Minnesota, they can. They don't have, as a tarot, they don't have the capacity to be able to actually bring you to, you know, even a shop, for example, and say, hey, for 40 hours, we're gonna teach you framing, or we're gonna teach you, you know, hanging drywall, or we're gonna teach you, you know, all these other things. So they're limited. You know, they don't, again, goes back to the budget. For whatever reason, it seems that the last people that get funded are the ones that are frontline in providing support and services to the membership itself. So tarots are the one that kind of seem to take the hit, and it's universal, unfortunately.
I was going to ask, how long did it take you guys to start up your new business, I guess? Did it take a long time to get everything figured out, or did it happen right away?
It was a process.
Yes and no.
Definitely a process, and I really lean on Nick for the business side of it. I'm more of the curriculum builder, and he handles all the business stuff. So, you know, finance, and so he's the CEO and president, and the curriculum I design. So, but I think it started, you know, Five Skies started in 2014, and that was actually the five of us. We have 3 adult children, and we created that company. So they're actually doing property management for their business. So a lot of the things that we talk about in financial literacy, we taught our children as they were growing up. So things that the pitfalls that we fell into, we taught them what not to do, and taught them the better ways of doing things, and having that financial sense of working for yourself, or, you know, work for a company. You know, what do you want to do? And that lesson came to them when they had a summer youth program. They had to work and see what that was. And our middle son did 6 weeks, and he's like, nope, I think I'm gonna do our own business. So that financial literacy piece really was key to them, and wanting them to work for themselves. And so we created that Five Skies, and we talk about that in class and how we became Five Skies. With Ho Chunk, I'm Thunder Clan, and so that's the upper clan, and my children. And it's kind of weird. So Ho Chunks, we follow the paternal side, and so Nick's, and maybe you could probably talk about that, Nick, and how.
So, as Oneidas, we're matrilineal. So, for her to follow her ways, the husband's side would dictate the children. But my ways dictate that the mother's side dictates, so the clan and all of that. So her following her ways means that the boys got to basically follow her side, so be Thunder Clan, and enrolled Ho Chunk versus Oneida.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But it gave me the kind of pause to actually have to learn then from my father-in-law what I needed to be able to teach, because women don't teach men relatives how to be men relatives. So I had the responsibility of learning those things so we could teach that. And of course Gordon was very instrumental in assisting with that too. His grandparents are, that's their role, is to help teach that as well. So that was the wonderful thing about it. But it helped them understand from tribal and clan perspective too, of that. Nyree refers to it as servant leadership. So showing and leading by example, and being the good kind of steward, not only of where we live, but also the community itself. So they realized from that, I can't do that if I'm working for other people. You just need that flexibility and freedom. And what we do when we say it yes and no, it developed quickly, was a lot of the core lessons in financial literacy, and those things are, like Nyree had said, trial and error. Things, we're telling you and showing you all the mistakes we made, so you don't do those. But then all the lessons we learned from it, we put together. So it took many, many years of messing all kinds of things up to finally figure out what the right ways to go about it were, because nobody was there to show us either. And then putting it together, though, didn't take that long to actually come up with what we really need to teach people, but then fine-tuning how we actually approach it, and what we can do live and in person versus is there anything that could be done virtually, and those types of things. We had to iron that out, so that was a little bit of a process. But I think the last class that we did in White Earth really kind of synthesized that down for me to understand better too, was that at the end of the class, we'll sit down and we get an evaluation from everybody, but then we also talk to them and have what we call like an exit interview. What did you learn? What was most important to you? What was most valuable? And the one gentleman that was in the class had said, I moved away from home for a while, separated from my family, and I learned all these lessons, kind of tough, but I had an uncle that was trying to teach me these things, me and my cousins, and now that I'm back and we're together again, I see that they didn't really listen, and what he was trying to show us, he's like, then I come here and you took like 5 years of lessons and you put it all into like a couple of days for us. And I was really going after my cousins, like, hey, this is important stuff. It's like he's saving you so much time by telling you these things. And it kind of gave me that appreciation of more. It's not the investment of time that it took us to figure out how to put this all together, but kind of the savings in time that we're providing to people. It's like if we can reach you, might save you several years of heartache down the road.
So, Joel, what was your biggest lesson from the financial literacy class?
Well, my biggest lesson out of the whole class, the whole training, would be that vulnerability isn't something to fear. And that's what Nick and Nyree bring into the training through the Mending Broken Hearts, was, they allowed you a safe place to be vulnerable, before, almost before the training even started, the actual training started. They wanted to get you comfortable. They wanted to get you feeling safe, secure in your environment. And I think that's what the training really did. It allowed me to express my feelings. It allowed me to laugh. It allowed me to have fun. It allowed me to let go of things. It was very beneficial in the way that I looked at Nick and Nyree and what they do and how they do things. And I felt experience in the room. I felt the care, the love, the joy, happiness, and also the I'd say the motive to see them want to better their people, and that's what they're doing. And I felt like even though everybody in the room was different, everybody in the room is different, they have that ability to look at everybody exactly the same, no better. Like they put worth in every person that steps into the room, because
like see their potential.
That takes courage. Yeah, that takes courage to even walk through the doors, not knowing what to expect, how to even go about, walking in that door that first day and not knowing what to expect. But that, that changed my life. The training really changed my life. The financial literacy part, I'm still learning that. I'm still learning that. I came from nothing, my whole life. So, to actually have something today and have the ability to work for that something, makes it that much more valuable, and to be able to share that with my friends and my family and my daughter and, my significant other. It's just, that's the most beautiful thing in the world that, like I can go to Pedro's.
And not have to look at the menu prices.
Yeah. It's like I earned Pedro's today, and just little things like that, I never thought I'd be, like be able to make a car payment or be able to make an insurance payment or be able to pay my own rent or, just pay your own bills, but, like what I took from that, what, the Five Skies program was, like life lessons. On responsibilities, I got to put this much away, this much away, this much away, and then Christmas came around and took it all. That's just the way it works. but it just feels good to be a good provider, for my family and to see the smile on my daughter's face, when I set up her brand new bed, she was so happy, and that's, that's what I do it for, I do it. To see the joy and to see the comfort in, my family and my friends' face, that I'm okay. I'm all right.
See, one thing for me was like the auto payments and stuff, like a car payment comes out automatically. My whole thing, like I'm just starting to realize this, is like I always didn't do the auto pay because I'm like, oh, what if I need this money? And then eventually I just realized, once it's auto pay, I don't see it. It comes out automatically. And then, it's just something you don't really think about anymore. Like, I don't really think about my car payment because it comes out automatically. But it's like that mentality that's like, I don't want to pay my bills because what if I need my money?
What if I want to go to Pedro's?
Yeah, I feel that. I got to cut Pedro's out 2 times this week and pay my electric bill. That's how it goes. And I just, I learned responsibility through the program. I learned, I learned how to reach out. I learned how to ask for help. I learned how to show up for myself, because that's the bottom line is, you need to make it every day. You got to show up every day for yourself, and that proves a lot of who you are as a person.
Well, plus, don't you have to do planks if you're...
Yeah, if you're late. Yeah. What was it, 1 minute late, 2 minutes?
The planks are 30. It starts at 30 seconds and increases 30-second intervals, but late is late.
Late is late.
Yep. And that's one of the things we try to teach our participants is like, especially in the construction field, you got to be 15 minutes early, otherwise if you show up at 7 when you're supposed to work, then you're late. 15 minutes you're supposed, or half an hour, They're there to give you instructions. Here's what you do today. And then at 7 o'clock, that's when work begins, you know. So when you're showing up at 7 o'clock, you don't even know what you're doing. And so responsibility, and we work as a team. You know, the whole class works as a team because, and Nick explains it really well in classes. Like, they're like, well, why do I have to do it if Joel was late? Just he should do it. I'm like, well, if you're on the construction team and you're down here and this is holding up, well, everybody else down the line has to wait until your section gets done, and then it builds off of everybody.
You're a team.
So the process of getting into the mindset of we're all a team, so we all need to complete the goal. That's why we do everybody, and we try to help them understand that.
When Joel's late, everybody planks.
Accountability.
Yeah, I did try to explain so I had one guy really, really argue with me, and I was like, if there was a better way for me to teach you that everybody here is reliant on everybody else, I would do that. But I'm not smart enough to have figured that out, so, you know, get down there with them.
Get down and do your plan.
And that's really the way it is out there, you know, like out at work. It really is that way. You got to rely on the person next to you to watch your back. You know, you have to rely. So if you ain't there, who's watching their back? You know, and that's the way I look at it. You know, I mean, you gotta just know what you want, be there early. You know, and that's one thing I took from the program. You know, is show up early.
Yep.
You know, you'll never have a problem. You know, like people respect that. Bosses respect that when you get there, you know, 20, 30 minutes early. You know, it makes it so much easier on your time that you're going to spend there at work. You know, like, because they know you're there. They know that you want to be there. And that changes, you know, like their outlook on how they look at you.
I feel like once you start that habit, too, you're always like 15, 30 minutes early for everything.
And that's one of the things, too. We just don't make just the class do it. With the exception of Nick, the instructors do it as well. You know, it's got to be a team effort. Yep. You know, the leader has to show. So I'm on the ground as well, planking with the rest of them. I think the max we did was 4.5 minutes with one class. So,
Holy.
Yeah. So then we give them some time, too, if you're back on time, everybody's back on time, then time starts to come off. So then they start to lean towards that. Oh, okay, everybody be back at the same time. 4.5 minutes. That was a long time.
Somebody does have to watch to make sure people are doing it, though. So.
Yeah.
Oh, your supervisor then?
Yeah.
Drill
I get to
sergeant.
pretend I am anyways.
The drill sergeant right there.
You guys mentioned your mending broken hearts in our last episode. I was wondering, would you guys kind of, I don't know, give us a crash course on it? Even though I know, what'd you say, it takes 2 weeks?
No, well, Mending Hearts takes 3 days in our
Oh.
program, and White Bison does it differently. So
Okay.
Nick and I, we modify it to kind of fit into our schedule. I think in White Bison they do it in 12 weeks, so they do one class a week.
Oh,
and
okay.
we do it in 3 days, and we find it more beneficial to do those 3 days. So Mending Broken Hearts is dealing with grief, trauma, and loss, and that really. That's the underlying and intergenerational trauma. You know, with all of us natives going through what our ancestors have gone through, that's been passed down to us for generations, and we just carry it with us. And you know, it's scientifically proven; it's in our DNA. So we have that marker in our DNA of that trauma. So we pass it down each generation to our kids, our grandkids, our parents. So to heal from that, we have to learn that process of healing and forgiving the unforgivable.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's
but,
okay.
For like people who don't know, how is generational trauma passed down?
Good question.
I guess the best way to describe or explain that is going to be when something happens to you, it's going to impact the way that you react and the way that you behave in life. That molds how you are as a parent, for example. So a behavior that your parent learned is taught to you. That behavior that you've learned from your parent now, you're going to pass on. And that's going to continue to cycle, but it gets worse every generation because you may not have learned the proper, our elders have, they had ways of addressing issues and coping with things that those skills were not shared. So what you learned was all the negative stuff, but you didn't learn how to fix it. And now you pass on the negative stuff, but you had more to add because you've experienced additional, bad things without knowing how to cope with it. So you took the baggage your mom and dad gave you and you added yours to it, and you handed that whole big bundle to your kids, who put their bundle in there and gave it to their kids, and it kept growing. So what we're trying to do now is historically show the tools that are out there to help start unpacking that baggage. Because what we see on the job, how it affects you is somebody could trigger something that's, you're carrying in that baggage. And then you go off, you say something or you do something, or you go out drinking that night or whatever, and you wind up losing your job. Well, you now added something to that baggage that you're now carrying because you got fired, you had to go off on somebody, or you've seen it, or you've gotten mad at somebody, and maybe you weren't at work, but you start arguing or yelling at them, hollering, calling somebody names, get into a fight, any of that kind of stuff. And you don't even know why you reacted that badly. You're like, geez, what the heck's the matter with me?
There's a lot of anger issues too, and unresolved grief. When someone passes away, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be passed away. It's just you have a broken relationship with them, and that you carry that grief, that unresolved issue between you, you and whoever you're carrying that with, and you don't address it, and you don't let it go. And so that affects the way you see them, whether it's, I'm going to be cordial, but I'm not going to interact with that person. So you just, okay, well, I have a problem with Joel. There's Joel. Hi. Good seeing you. And then just be done with it. And having that tension and that stress and strain, you're just carrying all that. And that's something that we try to teach you to release, and all of that, and understanding and actually facing that stuff head on. Most of us deal with that and we say, I'll deal with that later. Mm-hmm. I'll put it in my backpack and I'll deal with that when I'm ready. Well, when are we ever ready? And mending broken hearts makes you say, okay, today's the day I'm going to have to really deal with that. And, that's the hard part. You have to be ready to be open-minded and be able to take that head on. And we see participants start our class, and then we do those the first 3 days. We see people drop out day 1, day 2, because it's that hard. We just say, first 3 days are going to be the hardest. And then after that, it's going to be a cakewalk. If you can be past day 3, you're going to make it, and I think that's really the gist of Many Broken Hearts is you got to face that, and nobody does until they come to see us.
Well, and what I described is more generalized. I mean, that's just trauma. But we know as Native peoples, we have specific events that have been happening to us. So every Native that comes into our classroom, we know they have experienced historical or intergenerational trauma. But until we start showing them those impacts, a lot of people don't even realize that that's what's causing a lot of the things. They're like, well, yeah, I do that, or I've done that, or my brother or my cousins or whatever. And they don't realize that that's why it's actually happening. They were just like, oh, well, that was normal to me. We had some people, say, hey, have you been physically abused? Have you been emotionally, sexually, mentally abused? No. And they got bruises all over them, and they're like, finally asking that question of, well, what do you mean by physical abuse? And then you kind of explain it. You're like, oh, well, yeah, that happens every day. That's just normal for me. And you don't realize that some of those things that you've been going through are causing those. And then we try to provide some of those tools to say, hey, because it all starts with forgiveness. You've got to be able to forgive, like Nyree said, that, you have basic forgiveness all the way to forgiving the unforgivable. And one of the hardest things to forgive is self. We've all made mistakes, and we torture ourselves over those things. Forgiving somebody else for something, you is sometimes easier than actually saying, first I'm going to own up to the fact that I made this mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to admit that I'm human, and then I'm going to forgive myself for having done that. So I can move on and heal from it. And once you start doing that, then the little hiccup that happens at work, where, the guy next to you drops the fries and now you got to remake them or whatever the job is, you don't blow up on them and then lose your job. You're like, oh, it's no big deal. I can deal with that because I've dealt with so much worse. And that's kind of why I felt, I need to bring Nyree in to add that component, because if we can give you a head start in getting rid of the stuff you're bringing with you, it's a lot easier to get over the hurdles that are going to happen to you at the workplace anyway. So that's kind of why that is.
It's a really good way to explain it. Like, whenever somebody asks me what it's like generational trauma, I usually just like refer to like, oh, it's how natives were treated in the boarding schools. That kind of was passed down to how they raise their kids, and that gets passed down to, that's kind of how I explained it, but the way you explain it is really good. Like, it could be any situation that happens, and all of a sudden that's like ingrained into your brain.
The way we look at things, I mean, how we define what's traumatic to somebody, well, that's not traumatic at all,
Right.
But, then we downplay that, and we don't validate their feelings and, say that happened. Part of it is validation. You need to know that I need to validate myself to forgive myself for all the things that bad choices, good choices, whatever that is. We need to validate that for ourselves, and understanding ourselves first. I think that's a huge key, and part of our training it's why we work so hard on self in the beginning, and then we give you all the other tools because we want you to understand how to use those. When you understand yourself, then the tools that we give you are going to be a whole lot easier. So.
And it's nice that we can see that benefit no matter who comes through our program. So as Nyree said, doing those in the jails and that having the non-natives see that benefit, it's because even though not everybody's, ancestors were in residential school, or even, close relatives, even in some cases, they've still experienced some of those things, and they have things they can heal from. So no matter who you are, we can give you some kind of tools to help. You don't have to be just native to benefit from our program.
Another question. So I was just kind of wondering, like, what are people going to expect from the trainings to come? Like a little summary on, like, exactly how you would explain the training.
Or if you guys have done anything, if you're going to do anything new.
More planks.
Change them to wall sits. I don't know. I don't know if that's harder or.
Well, we always sit down and we kind of revise some of the programming in the curriculum. So the core, like the Mending Broken Hearts, that's going to be an essential element for what we do. And that leads directly into, teachings of the medicine wheel. So we want to keep those elements because it's still focused on self. But some of the core skills, those things are getting, get adjusted and amended and updated. We didn't talk about in your class, like, logical fallacies, but I talked a little bit about that in our last class because you hear a lot of arguments being made, especially politically, that are based on fallacy. If I can convince you my argument is correct by misleading you, then I can convince you to vote for my guy or do whatever. But just explaining to people, hey, this is an actual technique. It's a logical fallacy, whether it's a red herring or, straw man argument or something else, just to make you start thinking, oh, that guy's really making a lot of sense. I think I'm going to vote for him. But then understanding that, oh, wait a minute, that sounds just like he's saying this. And then you can do your own research and find out, because we always encourage that. We do modify some of that. But what you can expect coming in, long answer, I know. We're going to work on self, try to give you some tools to make you a better you, regardless of your pathway forward. And then depending on what you want to what you want to learn, because each class is different. The questions we get from somebody in a class drive the information that we provide as well. So we're going to have critical core skills. We're going to have, mock interviews and resumes and financial literacy, those things, but the actual content is still going to change based on who's there. The conversations we have with the individuals as well as the questions that they bring. We want to try to address those things as they come up and not just go, oh, well, we're not here to teach you that. We try to address everything. And then we also will have contractors come in, and that's always going to vary based on availability. So we'll have a contractor or an employer, it doesn't even necessarily need to be construction, come in and talk about some opportunities. But we also are going to have you do some research on those employers to have your own questions so you can say to them, hey, why do you do this or why do you do that, or how much am I going to get paid when I work there, or whatever it is, because we want you to have an eyes wide open way of going forward to say, hey, I always heard this guy's a really good guy to work for, but then you start researching, you're like, I don't think I want to work there. And I'd rather you learn that before you took that job than, 3 weeks in and you're like, boy, I hate this.
Yeah.
One of the things, too, we like to ask is our graduates to come back and talk, whether it's Zoom or in person, because they sat in their seat. They know what they're feeling. They know what they're thinking, what they're kind of going through in their mindset. And having them come back, we'd like to have more graduates come back and actually talk in our sessions, because the success out there for our graduates, it's amazing to see these guys out there just, kicking butt and doing what they're doing, not only for their families, but for their community. And the things that we see, the confidence, even today, the confidence that Joel has, in himself and what he can do. Those are the things that, for me, make what I do a lot easier, and what I want to do more of that, because I say that in class. One of the things is reach back and reach, each one teach one. So, and that's what they're doing, is they take the class, they say, hey, here's 3 other people, take this class. And they're reaching back and trying to pull other people up. And that's what we want people to do, is we want to uplift everybody to say, come, there's more opportunities out there. And we always say there's more than enough out there for everybody, so we shouldn't be crabs in a bucket. That's one of the stories we do too in our story. And the thing is, let's not be crabs, because we want to uplift our people. We want to make sure our people succeed. We don't want to pull them down and drag them and have an attitude of, that crab of, well, you think you're better than me, kind of attitude. And we shouldn't have that. We want all of our people to succeed. So having our graduates come back in and talk and seeing the success that they do, it's amazing. And we just got done doing a video update. On our website, we do have a 9-minute video that we did with our first class. We're actually in the process of updating that video. So with testimonies from 6 or 7 or 8 of our graduates came in and sat down, and it's kind of like, where are they now? And they'll be on our website once we get that production wrapped up. That'll be coming in later next year. So there's still stuff going on that we want people to see. There's real people to these stories. It's just not, we're just not out there just saying, come join our class, you'll do good.
And it's crazy too. Like everyone we've talked to that's been through your program, they've always been like, I owe my success to Nick and Nyree. And it's amazing that you're changing so many lives.
Well, when they say that, I always say, well, you took the first step. What we did is we take that mirror and we turn it on you, because we see that potential, and we build that confidence up to when graduation day happens, the mirror is turned back to them, and they see what we saw probably on day one in all of our people. There's a lot out there that they can do. It's just sometimes they just need somebody else to show them that they can accomplish anything. And that's what we do at the end of graduation. And they're our family,
Aw.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. I'll always be grateful for Nick and Nyree, just for opening the door. That's what they're doing for Native people all across the country, and they see worth in our communities. They see potential, you know, and that's unconditional love, you know, like they see unconditional love for their people, and I really appreciate that, you know, like how they saw something in me that I probably didn't see in myself at the time, and that, you know, and they just showed me how to look at myself and know I was worthy of not only a good working life, but just to be able to provide and, like Nyree said, walk with confidence, you know. And I really appreciate that. You know, I love hearing them talk.
Well, we only, you know, we just give you tools. You got to put the work in. You're the one that's, you know, it's your effort that results in your success. You know, so everybody that, you know, you've talked to that have said all those great things about us, they did all the work. We just, you know, we facilitated that and said, hey, here's a roadmap, but, you know, they got themselves there. And I'm very proud of, you know, every one of them, not just the ones you've talked to, but everybody that's made it through our program. I'm proud that they made it, whether they went on to, you know, great things and are, you know, journeymen or whatever. The fact that they took that challenge that we put before them and they rose up and they met that and they got through. However they go forward in life, we know that they've got the tools to be able to make the most of that. If they got to call us back and say, hey, I need a refresher, that's okay. But at least we know that, you know, they've got a better chance now than before we ever met them. So that's kind of why and what. And some of the changes in our programming that you can look for, hopefully by the second quarter of 2023, is our ability to kind of facilitate those links with employers. So we talked early on about Taro. So Taros have a job skills bank. So a contractor calls up and says, hey, I got a project on the res, and I was told I got to call Carol. I was told I got to call Taro, and I got to hire some people. So then Taro pulls up their list and says, well, here's who I got. You know, here's my laborers and here's my flaggers. We're doing the same thing. Five Skies is putting together the same kind of a database, but it's essentially off reservation. So we're starting just in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and we've got it broken out by the DOT. So MnDOT has, I think, 8 different regions in Minnesota. So if you get a contract awarded as a state project, you're going to be working one of those 8 regions. They have hiring goals for natives, veterans, women, and there's significant goals here in Minnesota, which is really great to see. But if you're not on or near a reservation, those contractors don't have any mechanism to actually be able to meet those. You know, they can call the hall, but the hall's not always going to be able to say, oh, well, here's the list of all my natives. So what we're doing to try to answer that call is putting together that database. Mm-hmm. We brought Craig Hansen in. He's used to be a trainer with us, and then he went working with Mille Lacs Band for a while, and he's back with us, and in 2 days he'll start regular full-time with us. He's going to be helping head that up to actually make sure that we got that database more secure, and then we'll be marketing it to, there's more than 6,000 contractors here in Minnesota. We're going to try to see if we can get those guys on board with it, so they can just call us, and then we can give them that list. We've still got some things to iron out, but I think that's going to help us facilitate getting more natives work, if that's what they want to do in that pathway, but then also getting more exposure then to employers in other fields, whether it's office or the healthcare field or whatever it is. So hopefully we can make those links between, you know, the tribal communities and then the actual available work and get that. And, you know, down the road, our goal would be to actually be able to have that become a service, you know, big pie in the sky. So that would be like a subscription service for the contractors. They sign up, just like Netflix. So they pay a subscription fee. We provide that service to them, and that funds us in being able to do training. So now we don't have to find like a tribal community that can afford a training. We just have to find a community that needs the training.
Oh, that's so
That's
cool.
And then we can just come there and do it. And that's ultimately our goal. That's the best way that we can keep this going, because we don't, nobody that comes to our training has to pay for it. We try through donations, grants, or contractors that fund the training directly, so the tribe and the tribal members don't have to pay anything. That's what we've been trying to do. And Nyree said, I'm the business guy. That's kind of the way I've figured out how we can possibly do this without having to bring somebody on to go around and knock on doors or make GoFundMe pages and all that kind of stuff. Just,
Get a little red bucket with a bell.
yeah, the contractors are ultimately, they're going to be the ones that benefit because they're going to meet those goals on those projects. We'll be able to help them meet those goals. So that's their benefit. So it makes sense that they're going to want the most qualified and well-trained and, solid people that they can have. So using those funds to train those guys, it makes sense.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see where you guys go from here.
Yep, the opportunities that we want to provide all of our tribal members, not just Ho-Chunk or Oneida or anything. We look at all of our family out there. If they want to get a good job, not a job, but a career path, and if we can provide those opportunities for them, that's the one thing. And I guess one of the biggest things too, with takeaways with our training is we mentor after. There's a lot of times where people can text us, call us, message us, and we're going to be there. I think 4 or 5 years we've had a graduate already, and still call up, hey, this is how I'm doing. Here's what I'm doing, because we ask, what are you guys doing? We have a page on our Facebook for our graduates, because in Many Broken Hearts they talk about a healing forest, and so we want all of our graduates to be in that healing forest. So how things going, if there's things going on, we post jobs in there. Just say, hey, how's things going? They talk to each other in there. And also tease each other in there, which is a good thing, and I have this screensaver on during the training, and it says, surround those who are on the same mission as you are. And that's I think the mantra that we have for our how they surround themselves with the people that have the same goal in mind, which is stick together, do good things, and how you want to succeed, your path forward, because those people are going to support you. And that's what I think that's one of our biggest things is we support our graduates after, whether it's financially, sometimes it's all our own pockets, because we want them to succeed. We don't want them to have any barriers to stop them from, getting that job. We've paid for a hotel, we've paid for gas money to get out there so they can get to the job. And then they pay us back. It's all about the trust too. So I think we go above and beyond trying to help our people because we want them to succeed. And I think that makes a huge difference to our participants.
I know Nick and Nyree have accessed funds for me when I was in a refinery. And that was really nice. I didn't know I owed you, but just kidding. But that was really nice, it really helped me out in that time, because and that's all I had to do was ask. And like I said, they saw potential in that. So it's like they help out where they can, and I'm always grateful for that. It's not like I hit them up every day and ask them for a Christmas present, but
Hey, we want
now
Pedro's.
we know. Now we know how he goes to Pedro's.
But hey, can I borrow 20 for Pedro's?
No, if our program can help and it's within our guidelines, we do it. And if it's not within our guidelines, like Nyree said, then we're still going to see if there's something that we personally can do. And if that's the situation, and Joel, we didn't say, hey, this is a loan, so it was within the program. But if it's not within the program, but it's coming out of our pocket, we'll tell you. Hey, I can loan you this much. Is that going to help you? And get me back whenever you can. I understand that. I talk about it in financial literacy. I have a budget line item for loaning money out. If I don't have the money to loan to you, because Have you ever loaned money to somebody and never seen,
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who hasn't?
I want to make sure that you don't put, I don't put myself in a situation, because I've learned from that same thing, that I'm loaning money out that I've now got to start calling you. Now I got to put the collection agency hat on because, I gave Joel $20 and, I want to go to Pedro's. So if I can help, I will. If I can't, I'll let you know that. But it's, one of the things that we try to figure out too. I might say, hey, I'll help you, but before I'm going to help you, you got to send me your budget. I need to see what you've been doing. And I've had a few people that are, oh, okay, and then I don't hear from them again, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah. Like, who keeps track of that?
What are some of your upcoming dates?
So, okay, January 30th, we'll start our class at Leech Lake. So at Northern
Lights?
Northern Lights, we'll have a class up there until February
24th.
So that will be our one class. And then we've got another class starting in the cities at the Mermaid.
Yep, the American/Mermaid. That'll be 3 days later, so February 27th, that class starts, and that goes until March 24th. And then we're looking at having a 3-week class that'll be over in Wisconsin with the Ho-Chunk Nation, and then also Western Wisconsin Coalition Workforce Initiative. So that'll be a 3-week class starting at the end of March, and then we're looking at we have a few more classes that we're going to be doing in White Earth specifically. They had a grant for this, so we were doing some classes, and Enbridge was a contractor that was actually funding a lot of the programming that we had been doing recently. Not everybody wants to participate with that, and that's okay. But White Earth has independent funding, and they've seen the benefits of the program that we were able to offer. So we're going to be doing, I think we've got 5 more classes to do with them, maybe 6. 2 classes a year for a couple more years. On our website, www.fiveskies.org, there's going to be more information on those trainings, but we're trying to get flyers out to the Taros, and like down in the cities, Craig's distributing them to some of the tribal offices or embassies down there, as well as the American Indian Center. So if you see a flyer, one of our flyers with a little QR code, you just scan the code and it takes you right to the application. We'll contact you a few weeks before whichever class it is, and set up an orientation, and that's where we go over kind of our expectations, our our program rules. We don't really talk about the planks there, but maybe we might start warning people in advance.
One more thing I wanted to ask you guys, guidelines for applicants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of the classes that we have, there's going to be more requirements or qualifications, and I try to put those right in, up front. But right now, you got to be at least 18 years old. Okay. We would like you to be a high school graduate, GED, or equivalent. That's most of our classes. That's not a requirement, but the one we are doing in February, that is a requirement. You've got to be an enrolled member of a federally recognized tribe for some of the classes. You could also be a parent or a spouse of an enrolled member, though. The one we're doing in February, where you do have to you got to be 18, you've got to have a driver's license, you got to have a high school diploma. That one is open to natives, but also women, veterans, and other minorities. So that one's a pretty broad spectrum that we allow. But our class sizes are limited. 30 is generally the maximum amount that we could have in a class. The one in February, we might be able to have a few more because we do have more staff coming in. That's another little bit of a change. In addition to Craig, like Nyree had said, so 3 more of us are actually certified for the Mending Broken Hearts. So that's going to free us up a little bit more that way. 18 years old. Reliable transportation, driver's license are preferred. High school diplomas, preferred. It depends on what career you're looking at. If you want to become an operator, you're going to need a high school diploma or GED, and you're going to need a driver's license. Those are must-haves. You got to be able to pass a drug test. Just about every employer is going to test you. So you got to be able to pass a drug test. And we normally will do screenings. Either we will or the hiring contractor will do a screening. So everybody knows we do a 5-panel oral swab. So we don't do UAs anymore because that was kind of not fun. So that normally will happen right at the orientation, and then, we collect everything, and we've got, if you want to argue with us, we will send you to Med Express. We've got an account set up there if you really don't believe that you failed. We can do confirmations if we have to, but if you fail that one, then, that's pretty much it.
We also have just one more guideline. So COVID vaccination.
Oh, yeah, this is an update.
Yeah, it is an update. So if you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask at our trainings. Otherwise, if you're not vaccinated, we wouldn't allow you in the program just because of recent events with Nick's health requires that he has to have...
I thought they just needed a mask all the time.
Well, yeah. So if you don't have a vaccination, then you'll wear the mask all the time. You'll get a temperature check. You'll have to, use hand sanitizer if you're not vaccinated. So that's the one big change we did have. So we just said vaccination only at this. So now we're lifting that. So.
Oh, okay.
We got a plastic room set up for you.
Put them in the bubble.
Yeah, you got your bubble over there.
So yeah, if you've got a current vaccination, then you don't need to wear a mask, unless the facility that we're having the training at has requirements. That we don't have control over, but for our class now, we've lightened that up a little bit. Doing planks with a mask was probably kind of rough.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, in the bubble, I wouldn't mind.
I do got to argue with that, though, because so I had to go through cardiac rehab, and I had to wear a mask the whole time when I was in doing rehab. So I was literally exercising for 50 minutes a day with the mask on, and
Yeah, that sounds rough.
well, it wasn't any. To me, I mean, if I could do that, you can do 2 minutes of planks with a mask. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Easy.
true.
Just hold your breath.
Again, we just want to say thank you for the opportunity for us to come in and talk about our program and,
Yeah, thank you so much for letting us.
Yeah, and
Interview.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Again.
Oh, yeah. Engagement over here. I like it. And they still sit by each other.
We like each other. So.
Right next to each other. Sharing a mic.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, with that being said, we will see you guys next time.
All right,
See ya.
thank you.
Yep,
Bye,
thank you.
guys.
Bye.